I know that Adam's a little bit nervous, so we're going to try to keep Adam under control as much as we can. I'm going to please ask us to rise. We're going to start with a blessing for Amanda putting on her talit.
Amanda, before I present your talit to you, I just want you to know how proud. Before I present your talit to you, I just want you to know how proud of you I am today and every day for the woman that you've become and the great future that you have ahead of you. May all your dreams come true. I love you.
Amen. Baruch. Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher ki yishalom v'totav etzivanu v'hitavte b'tzitzi.
Amen.
Amen.
Stay there. Let us please all join together in the Shecheyanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Let us please be seated. We're going to continue on page 101 of our Sidurim. This is the red Sidur that you have in your seats. Page 101. We start with Matovu.
Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Let us pray responsibly in English on page 101. How lovely are your dwellings, Jacob, your sanctuaries, people of Israel.
As for me, through your great kindness I enter your house. In awe of you, I bow toward your holy sanctuary.
Adonai, I love your house, the place where your glory dwells. I will bow to prostrate myself, kneel before Adonai, my Creator.
My prayers are to you, Adonai, in the hope that this is a favorable time.
God, in your abundant love, respond to me with faithful deliverance. Let us please rise. We're going to continue with the morning prayers, our blessings that we recite every morning, first thing in the morning, page 104, first in Hebrew, then in English.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasek vivina lekavim ben yom uben layla.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzalmo. Baruch
103.
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam abisharumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam batir Surim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai
104.
Eloheinu melech haolam zokev kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam roch haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechem mitzedei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasali kor tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozir Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam moti Yisrael b'tif ara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten layav koach.
Amen. Let us please remain standing as we pray together in English on page 103. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, who enables the bird to distinguish day from night, who made me in the divine image, who made me free, who made me a Jew, who gives sight to the blind, who clothes the naked, who releases the bound, who straightens those who are bent, who stretches out the earth over the waters, who steadies our steps, who has provided for all my needs, who strengthens the people Israel with courage, who crowns the people Israel with glory, and who gives strength to the weary. Please be seated. Actually, no, let's remain standing. I apologize. Page 148 for the Half Kaddish, like Adam would say, the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
בעלמא דברה קדוצי וימליך מלכותי, וחיי חוני וימי חוני וחי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירמה וינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקדושה, בריחו להילנה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
Let us turn to page 149 for Baruch.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai mevorach leolam vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated.
ברוך אתה אדוני.
We continue at the top of page 150. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, forming light and creating darkness, bringing harmony while creating all. We continue on page 154 with Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava Rabbah Avtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla Gidola Vitera, Amalta Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Ba'avor Avotenu, Shebaku Vecha, Avinu Malkeinu. Vatalamdem Kukechaim, Gentechonenu Lamdenu, Avinu Havarachaman, Hamrachem Rachem Aleinu, Veten Belibenu Lehavin, Laskil Lishmo, Lilmod, Ulelamed, Lishmo Velasot, Ulekayem Ekol Divrei Talmud Toratecha Be'ahava, V'ha'er Eineinu B'Toratecha, V'dabek Libeinu B'mitzvotecha, V'yachel Levaveinu Le'ahava U'yira et Shemecha, V'lo nevosh Le'olam Va'ed, V'lo Le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodshecha hagadol v'hanora b'atachnu, nagila v'nismecha, nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha, v'avienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz, V'tolichenu komemiut le'artzenu, ki el poel Yeshuot ata, uvanu v'karta mikolam v'lashon, v'keravtanu l'shimcha gadol, selah v'emet. Lehodo lecha u'yachedcha be'ahava, Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavucha hayom alevavecha v'shinatam lenavnecha v'dibartar tabam v'shivtecha b'veitecha ufletecha v'derech u'shrakvucha u'kumecha וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue silently to the bottom of page 156.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We continue with the English on page 156, the second paragraph. Adonai said to Moses, "Speak to the people of Israel and instruct them that in every generation they shall put tzitzit on the corners of their garments, placing a thread of blue on the tzitzit, the fringe of each corner. That shall be your tzitzit. You shall look at it and remember all the mitzvot of Adonai and fulfill them, and not be seduced by your eyes and heart as they lead you astray. Then you will remember and fulfill all my mitzvot and be holy before your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God."
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We now turn to page 158 for Micha Mocha.
Tehillah l'Elyon Baruch Hu Mvorach Moshe u'Miriam u'Bnei Yisrael V'chanu shira b'simcha rabba ve'amru kulam Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot Osefele Shira chadasha shibeku geulim Leshimcha sefat hayam Yachad kulam hodu Vehimliku ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed.
Let us please rise.
Zur Yisrael, akuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uvteken umecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzivot shemo, kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, God Yisrael.
We continue now with the Amidah, page 159. Actually, page 291, sorry. Yeah, we're using the Shabbat Siddur, so we're jumping back and forth. Page 291.
Adonai sifatai tita ufiya gita hilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may speak your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu v'Yemotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov. Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Hasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Goel Livnei v'Nechem, למען שמו באחווי. מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני. מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה.
Amen.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה, רע להושיע. מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים.
סומך נופלים ורופא הורים,
ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות
ומידו מלך,
מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
שמו.
מחיי המתים.
Amen. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ, כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, בדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח. נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך וקדוש וגדול וקדוש וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue praying silently till the end of page 299, the silent Amidah, 294 to 299. If you finish praying the Amidah, you may be seated. We're going to continue on page 165 with Sim Shalom.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Baruchenu Avinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha, ki be'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Torah chaim ve'ahavat chesed ve'ahavat chesed, u'tzedaka uvracha ve'rachamim ve'chaim ve'shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam, chen v'chesed ve'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. V'tov beinecha levarek et amecha Yisrael, v'chol heitu v'chol esha b'shlomecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai hamavarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
We're now going to turn to page 167. Let us please rise. Kaddish Shalem.
Yikral v'g'dashem me'raba be'alma divra kedutze ve'amlik malchute v'chayechon v'mechon v'chay dekol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'meru. Amen. Yehesh me'raba mevarach le'halam alal me'almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'naseh v'yithadar v'yidale v'yitzalal shemere kedusha v'richu le'ein lamin kol berakata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran me'alma v'imru. Amen. Tkabat slot tahon v'utahon dekol Yisrael kol dam v'hon v'shemaya v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oh, say shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru ve'imru. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to invite up to the Bima Amanda's cousins Ryan Kurzweil, Jennifer Kurzweil, Dean Kurzweil, and Nicole Kurzweil to open the ark before we take out the Torah.
Vayahi binsoa ha'aron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Veyafutsu oivecha, Veyanusu mesanecha mipanecha, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Udevanai mi Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
Gadlu l'Adonai Tzion Rom L'ma Shemo Yaktav Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagivura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki kol b'shamayim uvaretz ki kol b'shamayim uvaretz Lecha Adonai הממלכה ועמי נעשה לכל לראש רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לאדום רגליו קדוש הוא רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו כי קדוש Adonai Eloheinu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Veishtachavu, Lahadom Raglav Kadosh, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Veishtachavu lehar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
My speech.
הברח המרחם עושים בזכור ביתיתנים יציל נפשותינו מן השעות הרעות ויגר ויצרה מן הנשואים ויכון אותנו לפליטת עולמים בימה למשאלותינו ומידה טובה ישועה ורחמים. Let us please be seated.
Good morning and happy Labor Day. The Torah portion that I'm going to read today is called Ki Teitzei. In Jewish tradition, we begin reading the Torah portion for the next Sabbath during the afternoon service of the previous Sabbath, and then we read it again at the morning worship services on Monday and Thursday. Then, on the actual Sabbath itself, we read it in its entirety. Ki Teitzei contains a mixture of 72 commandments, dealing with such diverse subjects as treatment of captives, defiant children, lost animals, bird's nests, roof railings, divorce, rights of aliens, loans, vows, protection of works, parental guilt, charity for the poor, regulations for inheritance, and fair weights and measures. The portion concludes with a warning to remember how the Amalekites attacked the weary Israelites in the desert. Although there are many commandments in Ki Teitzei, the one that I want to focus on is the commandment Lo tuchal lehitalem, or you shall not remain indifferent. This commandment is mentioned regarding the return of lost objects to their owner. The rabbis of the Talmud were very clear regarding the obligations for returning lost objects. The tractate of the Gemara Baba Metzia teaches us that even if the lost object belonged to one's enemy, it still must be returned to the owner. Furthermore, if the person finding the property makes a profit from it before returning it to the owner, that profit belongs to the owner and must be returned to them when the item is returned. To illustrate this point, another tractate tells the story of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. He was visited by men who deposited 2 measures of barley with him. They then left and apparently forgot all about it. Rabbi Pinchas sowed the barley for several years, harvesting it and storing it. When after 7 years the men returned, Rabbi Pinchas told them, "Take your storehouses filled with grain." The question may be asked, why is there such emphasis placed on the return of the lost objects? What about the old childhood rhyme, finders, keepers, losers, weepers? The answer is that returning lost objects is so much deeper than just a simple act itself. Bachya ben Joseph ibn Pekuda believes that restoring lost property is actually a fulfillment of the commandment in Leviticus, V'ahatov l'reacha kamocha, or love your neighbor as yourself. Aharon Halevi, in his Sefer HaHinuch, goes even further, arguing that returning lost property is fundamental and that all society depends on it. It really comes down to the important matter of trust between people. A society depends upon the faith people place in one another. Without people feeling that they can rely on one another, society collapses into suspicion, selfishness, and bitter contention. Whether or not people return or keep lost articles is a significant indication of society's health. I totally agree with this view. The consequences of people not trusting each other is most obvious in the dysfunction which we see in our political system, relationships between different branches of Judaism, and although in a much less important way, of course my father taught me that we actually see it in sports teams as well. He told me that many teams simply try to find the best player for each position and think they can win the championship that way. However, he says this rarely ever works. A team is a mini society, and only with everyone working together and trusting each other can they function properly and succeed.
Thank you. We're now going to continue with our Torah reading, which, if you want to follow on the Chumash, page 1112, 1112.
Ve'yazor v'genim kuskim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol Eloheinu nu kavod laTorah. Yamdu Shlomo ben Nachman ve'Rachel Chenda bat Hershel Rishon. Baruch Shenatan Torah Malim Yisrael b'kedushato. V'atem hadavekim b'Adonai Elohechem chayim kulchem hayom. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'cha B'onu Mikol Ha'amin Nosan Lonu Esto So Baruch Atah Adonai Noseinu Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki tetzei la milchama ha'ovecha untano Adonai Elohecha biyadecha v'shavita shivyo v'ra'ita b'shivya eshe yefat toar v'hashakta ba v'lakakta lecha le'isha v'haveta el toch beitecha v'gilha et rosha v'asta et siparnecha v'hesira et simla shivya me'alecha v'yashva v'veitecha uvakta et aviha v'ye'ima yirak yamim v'ahar kein tavod elecha v'alta v'haita lecha le'isha v'haya imlo hafata ba v'shilakta l'nafsha v'machor lo tim karana v'kasef lo titamer ba tacha asher inita.
You did so good. Who taught you? Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Nasan Lonu Torah Sanes V'chayei Olonu Matat V'socheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen. Ya'amdu Zev Yosef ben Benjamin Lezer v'Pesha v'Sherni David Zev v'Sara Yonina Sheni.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher b'cha b'nu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki tiana le'ish shtei nashim ha'achad ahuva v'ha'achat tzenu'ah, v'yadu lo vanim, ha'ahuva v'hasnu'ah, v'haya ha'ben ha'chor lasni'ah, v'haya b'yom hanhilo et bana, et asher yiyeh lo yuchal, levaker et ben ha'ahuva, al pnei ben hasnu'ah habchor, ki et habchor ben hasnu'ah yakir, late lo pi shenayim, v'kol asher yimatzeh lo, ki hu reshit ono lo mishpat habchorah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emes, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Tamod, 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 Habakar Habat Mitzvah, Yedida Chana Bat Adam David V'Razel Surash, Maf Shlishi.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Lemorach Lolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ki ish bein sorer u'mareh einenu shomea v'kol aviv uv'kol imo v'yisru oto v'lo yishma alechem v'tafsu vo aviv v'imo v'hotziu oto el zigne iro v'el sha'ar mikomo v'amru el zigneiro, beinenu ze, sorer u'moreh, einenu shomea, v'kolenu zolel v'sovei, orgamuhu, kol anshe iro, v'avanim v'amei, uviar tahara mikirbecha, v'kol Yisrael yishmeu v'yira'u. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Let us please rise.
Mishe berak avotenu Avraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov, v'imotenu Rivka Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech et Chana bat Adam David v'Rezel Surah, shegia lemitzvot v'ratah hayom likavod makom likvod haTorah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmerecha v'chayecha, v'gonen et liba liot shalem imin Adonai Elohecha, v'kato b'torato l'alecha b'rachav, u'lishmor mitzvotav, liot amitza limtzo et Yehuda, v'liot isha ohevet, v'huva unhenecha hayom uv'chol yom lechein, u'lhesed rachamim b'einecha u'v'nei kore oroecha, u'shlach habracha tzlacha mekom aseh yadecha, Yehi ratzon lelagle la Torah lechupa ulmasim tovim v'nomar Amen.
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless Amanda, who has been called to the Torah upon reaching the age of mitzvot, with reverence for God, the Torah, and becoming a bat mitzvah. May the Holy One protect and sustain her, helping her to be wholehearted in her faith, to study Torah and fulfill the mitzvot, and to walk in God's ways. May she have the strength to find her calling, to be a person who is both loving and beloved. And may she find love and compassion today and every day in your eyes and in the eyes of all who see her. May Adam and her family have the privilege to rear her to maturity, guiding her to a love of Torah, to the blessing of Huppah, and to a life of good deeds. And let us say,
Amen. Segment of Mazel Tov, segment of Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, segment of Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, segment of Yehelanu, Uveko Yisrael, Yehelanu, Uveko Yisrael, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam, Mazel Tov.
By the way, there was an article in the foreword last week talking about these candies. Have you ever seen one of these candies outside of a synagogue?
No.
You've seen them sold somewhere? Only in the synagogue, right? I mean, that's where you get them. So this is one of those things. Anyway, let us please remain standing for the lifting and the binding of the Sefer Torah. Okay. And before that, we're going to pick up the candy. It's one of Adam's big things, picking up the candy, please.
You gotta have a clean bima.
Clean bima.
Invite all the children up that would like some candy. Please come on up and help clean up the bima.
Adam, who's doing that? Yamdu Machvia Be'agolel. And now let us please remain standing for the binding and the lifting of the Sefer Torah. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai ve'yam Moshe. Let us just please remain standing for a couple of more seconds. We're going to continue with the Chatzi Kaddish while we're standing. Chatzi Kaddish. Before we put the Torah away.
Yitkadal v'kadashemei rabba
Amen.
ve'alma divrak yurtzeh ve'amlik malkuteh b'chayech koni v'mechoni v'chayde chol beit Yisrael b'gala u'vizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Heshemei rabba mevorach le'olam alol me'almaya yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'naseh v'yithadar v'yidaleh v'yitalau shemei lekudusha barichu ve'elam min kol rakatza v'shirata tush b'katza v'nekemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru Amen.
We continue now on page 183. Yehallelu et Shem Adonai.
Ki nizkaf shemo levado, hodo haaretz, v'shamayim vayarem keren le'amo, tehila lechol hasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, leDavid mizmor.
And on page 184, we're all going to sing together as the ark remains open one last minute before we close it.
Eitz Chaim Chi Lamachzikim Ba V'tomcheha Meushar Deracheha Darchei Noam V'chol Nativoteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Let us please be seated.
Thank you everyone for coming. It means so much for me for you to be able to celebrate with me today. Thank you to friends, family, aunts, uncles, and cousins who traveled to Vegas to be here. Before I conclude and we are all one step closer to brunch, I'd like to thank some special people in my life. First of all, thank you to Rabbi Goodman for being here today and continuing to tolerate my dad. And thank you to DJ Sinai for conducting today's service. I want to say a special thank you to Lori for everything she did to help plan this special day. From helping me get my dress to picking out decorations, this day truly wouldn't have happened without her. And then there's Remy. Remy, I don't really know where I'd be without you, but I would definitely have more of my own things. I know we have our own stuff, but you always end up using mine. Even though we don't always get along, I want you to know you're an amazing sister, and I can't imagine life without you. We will always be there for each other through good times and bad. To Grandma Sharon and Papa Bill, I know it's a long trip from Pittsburgh, but I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm so grateful for the time to get to spend with you. Thank you for all the fun winter breaks we have had, especially to Grandma Sharon for all our shopping trips. Even though we live far away, I always know I can pick up the phone and call you. To Grandma Roz and Papa Shelley, it is so great to have you nearby. You are always here for me and Remy, and make sure you do everything that is needed to be done. Thank you so much for all the vacations and adventures you have taken us on. I hope there are many more to come. I love you both so much. A very big thanks goes to my dad. He's been teaching bar mitzvah students since shortly after his own bar mitzvah, but this is his first time his student is his own daughter. Thank you for your skill and your patience to teach me everything I needed for today. Thank you for all the years you have helped me and Remy, and thank you for making this day special. And last but definitely not least, I want to say a very special thank you to my mom. Even though she isn't physically with us today, I know she is here and be proud of the things I have accomplished in life. I remember her today and every day. Once again, thank you all for being here and helping me celebrate this special day. I can't wait to party.
So it's weird after, this is my 25th year here now, and I've been up for all the parent speeches, and now it's my turn, so we've sat back, and this person's too long, this person, whatever. So I'll ask you for your honest feedback later. I think I have a good speech, but don't be shy about letting me know what you think. So before I start, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's a holiday weekend and spending it with us, and it means more than we could ever tell you. The other thing I want to make sure I do, because I'll forget otherwise, is there's directions to the brunch at the end when you're walking out. So I want to make sure I do that. Now, the speech. So Amanda, I want to talk to you about two different conversations that I've had, one which you were a part of and one which you were not born yet. So one of the great things that I've always been thankful for is that your great-grandma Sorley, you got to know her, and when she was still doing pretty well, and she got to talk to her and spend some time with her. So I used to go, ever since I moved to Las Vegas, I tried to go visit her every winter vacation, spend a few days with her, and talk to, just to catch up with everything and whatever, see what everybody was doing. And I just remember this one time, I think it was around 2004, 2005, something like that. And we were just sitting at the table, just schmoozing or whatever. And I was just asking her, like, as I always would, like, hey, how's this person doing? How's that person doing? And, you know, we went through the line, like, you know, the kids, the grandkids, the great-grandkids. And if those of you who knew my grandma, your great-grandma, knew that she probably embellished a lot of their accomplishments. And, you know, somebody got a promotion at work, they were probably next in line to be taking over the entire company, and so on and so forth. But the bottom line was everybody was doing well, and that was what's most important. And so I asked her, I said, Grandma, there's her husband, her late husband, Grandpa Bill, not the Grandpa Bill that you know, but my Grandpa Bill, he had passed away in 1995, and I asked her, I said, Grandma, do you think Grandpa sees what's going on and knows that we're okay and we're all doing fine? And she said, well, I don't know if he sees, but I think he knows. And it's interesting, because I actually, now your great-grandmother and I disagreed a lot of stuff on a lot of things when it came to religious things, and in this one too, because in my imagination, I actually believe that he does see, and that she sees, and all of our relatives see, and that they're up there together today at the bat mitzvah, not physically obviously, but they're with us, and they see, and they know that you're doing well, and that your sister's doing well, and that we're carrying on, and we're doing okay. Second conversation, this is one that you were there for. And this is one, literally, I think about literally every single day of my life. And this is a hard one to talk about, but it's important. And what was happening at the end of Amanda's mom's life, Robin, what was happening is she was really, really very sick. And we thought maybe we could do something and she would be better. And so we never really talked to you and your sister about where things were headed, basically, because we thought there could be a miracle. But finally, at the very end, I was just like, we have to talk to them, and okay. And then you remember this conversation, but the last thing, literally the last thing she said to you was, I want you to have a great life. And what does that really mean, though? What does it mean to have a great life? Everybody has their own ideas what a great life is. A great life to me would be not a fun life for a lot of people, and so on, and vice versa. And that's fine, and we're all entitled to and should pursue our goals and live our lives in the way that we want to, that makes us happy, that makes us feel accomplished, whatever that happens to be for that individual person. What that means, though, is if you want to have a great life, you have to have those goals set for you, and you have to be able to make a plan to accomplish it. You have to believe that you can accomplish those goals, or you're not going to be able to. And one of the truest statements I've ever heard in my life, and could be applied across the board, is if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're probably right. There's a lot of times people, and I can't help myself, but I like to throw things back to sports all the time. We'll see a game, and one team wins by 2 points or 3 points, and everybody's like, oh, but the other team was so close or whatever. But they weren't. They were not that close, because in a lot of times, sometimes maybe, but a lot of times, they didn't believe in their heart that they could accomplish their goal and get to the finish line and win. And that's what I want for you, because you can accomplish anything. You can do anything that you want. You can accomplish any goal that you put in front of you. And by doing that, you literally will honor your mom's last words to you, to have a great life, which we're all going to help you with too. I love you so much. Mazel tov.
We're going to please ask us to please rise. We're going to continue on page 205 with Aleinu.
Aleinu leshaveach ladon hakol, latei gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu koyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kachem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שנותן שמיים ועושה ארץ על כן נקבל לך אלוהינו ולנו זכה וכבר ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Please be seated. I'd like to call upon Janet Samuel, member for board of directors, for presentations to Amanda.
You thought you were done, didn't you? Anyways, Amanda, as always, you did a lovely job, and the congregation's very proud of you today and very happy to be celebrating with you. On behalf of the board of directors and the congregation, we have your bat mitzvah certificate, so now you know it's official. We also have some gifts for you. From the men's club, we have some candlesticks, and we have a chumash from the women's league, and we hope that you'll continue to use them and that you'll think of this day every time you do. Mazel tov. You're welcome.
I even got something for you, Amanda. First of all, it was a pleasure sharing the bima with you this morning. You did an amazing job. You are welcome to come up here anytime and sing with me, okay? What I do want to present to you is a Havdalah candle, okay? At the end of Shabbat this following week, when you light it, I want you to remember that we do have a community of teens here at Temple Beth Sholom that you're always welcome to join and come hang out with us. And we hope to see you at some of our events and some of our upcoming functions, okay? All right. So that's for you.
Okay. So first of all, Amanda, I really want to thank you for understanding what it feels like to work with your father. I don't know there's any other person in the world besides you and Remy that really knows the meaning of working with Adam every single day. We met 25 years ago, and there hasn't been a dull moment ever since. I want to share with you just a couple of words of your Torah portion. You see, you read something that's really unique because this Torah portion contains such a large number of mitzvot that it's impossible to keep track, right? And it's impossible for a person to fulfill all of those mitzvot during, one day, let alone, a moment in their lives. It takes a lifetime. And I think there's something that we have to understand from this parsha beyond the actual meaning of every specific mitzvah. So the most important thing, if you look at what you read, is about strength, right? Many of the things that we face in life are not easy and are not what we had expected. There are moments that they're just thrown at us and we don't know what to do, and eventually we find that we're going to be okay. So the Torah really cautions us to live our lives with tremendous strength. I also believe there's a danger to always trying to be strong. Because when you always try to be strong, you cannot see much of what lays in front of you for trying not to get hurt yourself. And I want to share with you this morning 2 wishes that I wish for the rest of your life. One, that you grow up to be an even more beautiful woman than you already are, stronger than you are, but also as dedicated and as understanding of the Jewish people as your father is. That you never forget where you came from, and you never forget where you're going. It takes strength, but it also takes perseverance. And sometimes you know how your father does the same thing over and over and over again every time? He does so because it really means for him something to make sure that tomorrow there will be a Jewish legacy for other Jewish children to grow up to and to actually be Jewish, just like you are here today exercising that beautiful power of your Jewish identity. My other wish is that as you grow up, you really remember and take in and emulate your mother's sweetness. If there is something that I remember about Robin, if there is something that I never forget, is what a sweet person she was. Of course, patient like a saint, as we already know, right? You've probably seen me do this before. I sometimes take candy from the ones that are thrown at you after your aliyah. And I give this candy to the B'nai Mitzvah. But today I think that sweetness has a very special meaning. And so I want you to take these 3 candies. And I want you, every time that you look at them, of course, remember the sweetness of this moment. Remember that your mother is watching over you in a more beautiful way than only just watching over you. She knows, which is exactly what your father said. She knows who you are. She knows what you're doing. She knows where you're headed. And I want you to remember that in every important moment of your life, she will know already what you're about to do. So, for when you get engaged to the partner of your life, when you find the person that you love, for when you have your first child, sounds good? Okay. And after your first child's bat mitzvah, so you can remember the same sweetness that you had today. Now I want to thank you for putting up with your father. It is my turn. And please know, Amanda, that like I've always said, anything that you and Remy need, we are always here for you. This temple, its doors are wide open for you and your sister, even if your father was not part of the picture, which he is. Okay? You know that. Let us please remain seated. We're going to end our service with Ein Keloheinu, followed by a Tekiyat Shofar, because it's the month of Elul. And we can find Ein Keloheinu on page 204.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kamoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shiktiru Avoteinu, Lefanecha et Ketoret Hasamim.
Mourners and those serving Yortzeit, please rise for the Mourners Kaddish, page 207. Idgadal ve'idkadash shemei rabah, ve'alma divrach hirutei ve'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol bet Israel, ba'agala u'bizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach l'olam u'l'almei almaya, idbarach ve'ishtabach ve'itpa'ar ve'itromam ve'itnaseh, ve'itadar ve'itale ve'itala al shmei dekudesha barichu. Leila min kol birchata ve'shirata, תושבחתה ונחמתה ואמירם בעולמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלם הרב אמין שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. Mazel tov. Mazel tov, everybody. Mazel tov to Amanda and her family. Many, many more years of smachot together. Mazel tov, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Also, don't forget to take the directions. The papers are on the back